Welcome back to Royal Ascot for Day 5. Race 1 is the Chesham Stakes. It's a 2-year-old race, it's 7 furlongs, and it's full of potential improvers. Let's have a look at the runners and riders. Straight course, 7 furlongs, 1,400 metres. Number 1, Age of Gold, is very well bred, and he's looked impressive in a couple of wins so far. It's not unusual for a big price newcomer to win this race, so keep an eye on the likes of Duke of Monmouth. Number 5, 10, Motawahij, ran well first time out, and his trainer Carl Burke won this race a couple of years ago. And down towards the bottom, number 14, Bedtime Story, looked very, very promising first time out. Delighted to be joined again by John Blance and Maddy Playle of the Racing Post. Let's start with Bedtime Story. John, tell me the story about this filly.
Yeah, well, she's had the one run. It was at Leopardstown over 7.5 furlongs, but round a bend, and she was a little bit outpaced in the early stages, but she came home really, really strongly. The straight track here will definitely suit her. She's by Frankel, so she's very nicely bred. I mean, some good winners of this race. Point Lonsdale, Pinner, Two-Bone, Churchill in recent years. She might not be that level, but she looks pretty good to me.
Ryan's got a very good record in this race. Bedtime Story, Maddy, is by Frankel, out of Mecca's Angel, a world-class sprinter, but it looks like the sire line is having the influence in terms of strength and stamina.
Absolutely, it certainly looked that way with their finishing effort at Leopardstown. I just wonder, like John said, she was a bit out of her depth in the early stages of that race. Will she be quite streetwise enough for this yet? She looks a future star in the making, though, and Aidan O'Brien won this with a filly with September a few years back.
He's won this race 4 of the last years, so he knows what is needed. Let's talk about Age of Gold, also by Frankel, 625,000 euros worth. A couple of good wins at Yarmouth, and that form has been boosted somewhat as well.
And again, there was a good finishing kick there. He was a little bit slowly away, somewhat awkward out the gate, but sort of learnt on the job, as it were. And yeah, came home very strongly in the manner of a horse who probably needed a little bit further. Gets it today in the numbers, not quite on top of Bedtime Story for me.
There'll be 1 or 2 horses at prices that run well here. Maddy, have you got one of them?
I have. I quite like Expensive Rose, number 15 for Charlie Johnston. His father Mike won this race 3 times quite a while back, so they clearly know as a team what it takes to win it. She was very good at Carlisle last time. Very stout pedigree by Australia, related to some horses that stayed 2 miles. So expect her to be going on at the finish. I think she can build on what she showed last time.
Market is likely to have this as a showdown between Aidan O'Brien and Charlie Appleby. Is the market right, John?
More or less, yes. A Bedtime Story on top for me. Horse number 14, Age of Gold in there for second. So I wouldn't say an obvious Q, but certainly Q potential there. And then you've got Jewel of London, who I think will benefit from a straight track after a couple of runs at Goodwood and Kempton. And also quite like Defence Missile. That was a promising debut at Newbury. Decent speed figure, decent draw as well.
Yeah, there's been some big price winners this race in recent years, Graham. I'm going to go with 15 Expensive Rose to cause a bit of an upset, followed by 1 Age of Gold, 14 Bedtime Story. And Pentle Bay, the 11, is worth a mention. Did well to win at Leicester last time.
First point I want to make here is I don't have major confidence. But Bedtime Story comes from the yard who've dominated this race. She's on top, number 14, from 1, Age of Gold, 10, Motawahij, and 11, Pentle Bay, who was sold on Monday night here at the boutique sale for 400,000 guineas. If you're the person who bought Pentle Bay, the very best of luck, along with the rest of us in the Chesham Stakes. Race 2 on the 5th and final day of Royal Ascot this year is the Hardwick Stakes, a Group 2 contest over 1.5 miles, 2,400 metres for older horses, and there are some good ones on show here. From the top, number 1, Candleford, has very strong Ascot form. Number 2, Continuous, could be one of the middle distance stars of this season. He went from strength to strength as a 3-year-old. Desert Hero was very good in a big handicap at this meeting 12 months ago. Goliath adds some welcome European interest. Isle of Jura has thrived in Bahrain and brought that good form back to Britain. And Middle Earth is improving and improving pretty strongly at the moment. And we have an American raider called Mr. Cut, who won a big race here at Ascot a couple of years ago. So this is a fascinating race on many levels. I think the natural starting point is the favourite. Maddy Playle, Continuous, ran well here in the King Edward VII Stakes last season. But after this defeat, he went on a tear.
He did. He won the St. Leger, of course, and then was unlucky not to finish closer than 5th in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. The question I'd ask everyone, Graham, is how many of these horses could do that and be unlucky in doing so? Not many, I don't think. He's really classy. We see him here at Ascot last year. This wouldn't have suited him, this sprint finish. He's a big galloping stayer. This Hardwick Stakes is his seasonal reappearance. Can't wait to see him.
John, what do you think of it?
Yeah, everything that Maddy said, really. And also, if you look at this potential speed map in this race, he's probably going to be getting a prominent position without having to do too much work, and it'd be difficult to pass under those circumstances. The arc as well was a bit of a sprint home too. So to run the race that he did was really commendable, and he's the best horse in this race. There are one or two interesting lurkers, but he's the obvious standout pick.
I'm going to touch on a couple of horses who've had a go at Continuous and came up short in the St. Ledger, Middle Earth and Desert Hero. Pick up Middle Earth here at Ascot last autumn over a staying trip. He was good that day, and he's got better since, I think.
He certainly has. It was a tremendous performance at Newbury in front of our cameras on Lockinge Day to come from the back of the field like he did to win, beating King of Conquest, who subsequently won again in a race that was much better suited to King of Conquest rather than Middle Earth. So he's definitely an improver. He's going to have to be at his very, very best, though. He's have to keep that improvement curve going up to win this.
Agreed. Now, Middle Earth didn't run his race in the St. Ledger. I think Desert Hero did, Maddy, but he was still beaten over 3 lengths. And what are we to make of the fact that he disappointed at Newbury last time? We pick him up at Ascot in a molten run race, a ferocious run race for that handicap when he won, but his last run was not his best.
Yeah, I think Desert Hero can reverse that form, though. His seasonal reappearance second at Sandown was a really red-hot effort over an insufficient trip. Not sure what happened last time, whether the run came a little bit too soon or connections just weren't quite happy with him, but he's proved before that he's got the class edge over Middle Earth, and unless there's gone something dramatically wrong, I think he is the better horse of the two.
You can read way too much into jockey bookings. William Haggas has a couple of runners here. Tom Marquand is on Desert Hero, and Candleford will be ridden by William Buick. Candleford came back to form in Ireland last time. I don't know what's going on here, but if I'm Tom Marquand and I fancy an OBE or maybe a knighthood down the track, I am not deserting the Royal Horse. But Candleford was very good in a big handicap here 2 years ago and got a softish lead and took advantage in Ireland last time.
He did, yeah. I was a bit annoyed because I quite fancied him in that race at Newbury and he was taken out at the last minute. And yeah, he's gone on to Ireland and won. You say he's got a good record here. I've got him in the numbers. He's the ideal sort of horse for this race, stepping up now to this level. I've got him in for third.
Mr. Cut, a welcome American challenger, won a big Golden Gates handicap, I think, under James McDonald here a couple of years ago. And he's been running very well in some of the good turf races in the States with John Sadler. Brilliant trainer of the mighty Flightline a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the only trouble is, Graham, this is a really deep race. You mentioned Candleford there. Strong stayers with excellent recent form. I think Mr. Cut's going to need more, but he's got a good turn of foot, and that could serve him well in these conditions.
Continuous going to be hard to beat. John, what are your numbers?
Yeah, he is. He's going to be on top for me. Horse number 2, Continuous. 8, Middle Earth. Again, that looks like a pretty good cue to me, Graham. Famous last words. Candleford in there for third, and Isle of Jura has been on a really good upward curve as well. Some good late splits as well in some of his races. So he's interesting too, but Continuous is going to be very tough to beat.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed following Isle of Jura recently in the Middle East. He's been an exceptional improver. He makes my numbers, but it's number 2, Continuous on top, followed by 4, Desert Hero, 7, Isle of Jura, and 8, Middle Earth.
Aidan O'Brien has Luxembourg win the Coronation Cup. He has August Rodin who won the Prince of Wales Stakes. Big call this. I wouldn't be surprised if Continuous is at least as good as that pair by the end of the season. If that opinion's correct, he'll win this. 2, Continuous on top, 8, Middle Earth, 1, Candleford, and 9, Mr. Cut for the Hardwick Stakes. Warm welcome back to Royal Ascot. Beautiful weather all week here. The Day 5 feature is a Group 1 sprint, straight 1,200 metres for the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes. This is a wide open race. Any number of old favourites doing battle. Art Power has a super record here at Ascot. Cardem sprang a mighty surprise in this very race 12 months ago. Kinross has super strong Ascot form. He doesn't have Frankie Dettori anymore. Ross Orion takes the ride. Millstream got the better of a 4 or 5-way go in the Duke of York last time. Mitbahi swooped from way back at the Curragh. Shartash is a potential improver for James Doyle and Archie Watson. Should have been a ring just behind one or two of these, including Millstream last time. The Wizard of Eye won a big handicap at Ascot last time. Washington Heights is speedy and aggressive. Believing is on the quick backup after a very good run on Tuesday. And we've got Swing Along, who has run well in big races at Ascot several times. Any number of possibilities here. I want to start with last year's race. Strange things can happen on the straight course when the leaders go hard. Jamie Spencer adores it, and he produced a classic Spencer swoop on Cardem at 80 to 1 in this race 12 months ago, John.
Yes, we were both scratching our heads with that, as you say, 98% of average speed on the way home, so they were certainly slowing down, as they have done in all the 4 years that we've got sectionals for this race here in Britain. So I think there's a pretty good case to be made for you want a horse that's going to be sort of mid-division or held up here as well. That said, there's not a great deal of obvious pace involved here, but I think Lightning would have to strike twice in the same place for Cardem to win.
And if we look at that video, we had Kinross, I think, in 7th, Art Power in 11th. I think it's pretty significant, Maddy Playle, that Jamie Spencer has bailed from Cardem and rides Mitbahi this time. So that's last year's race done and dusted. Let's deal with a couple of other pieces of form. Art Power, soft ground. Kinross, a right royal battle in the Champions Sprint last October. Different conditions here. Art Power needs giving the ground, I think. Kinross doesn't have Dettori, and he's had 2 goals at this race, Maddy, in the past, and he's come up short.
Yeah, I think both of them are going to struggle for separate reasons. Kinross, the ground is a legitimate concern for me. He's a top-class horse on soft ground or on soft ground over 6 furlongs as well, but mainly he likes 7. Art Power, he'd be winning this race perhaps if it was at the Curragh, but he's not as keen on Ascot for all he won his Group 1 here last year. He's beginning to look exposed now as a 7-year-old. I prefer one of the younger riders, and that's Mitbahi for me, who won at the Curragh last time in the Greenland Stakes.
Jamie Spencer executed a classic last to first swoop in a fast run race. He'll be looking for exactly the same setup this time.
Yeah, he will, and that form looks okay now because Regional, of course, boosted it on Tuesday in the King Charles III Stakes.
Speaking of Tuesday, believing, John, I thought she'd run well in the King Stan Stakes, the King Charles III Stakes now, and she did. She ran a really good race for third, and the quick backup in these 2 big sprints, Tuesday and Saturday at Royal Ascot, has been performed with honour several times before. I like it when sprinters turn out quickly.
Yeah, I think she's a legitimate chance. Gate 5, you might have heard me prattling on about the draw here yesterday. It's not quite as big a thing in this race. There's a much more even spread over the last 10 years, so a low gate would not put me off. She's not quite made it into my numbers, but again, she should get into a pretty good position as far as the pace is concerned.
I quite like the shape of this race. A couple of horses I want to mention in a minute, but please, John, if you will, wrap up your main fancies for this big one.
Well, I'm going to go with Mitbahi for all the reasons that Maddy gave. I think he's a horse that's really on the up and up. A couple of really good runs of late this season. Millstream is another of the sort of new kids on the block when it comes to this division. I did like that York run, really put the old head down there to work for victory in a way that was very, very commendable. So 6 and 5. Swing Along was an old favourite of mine, ran a good race for me last year in the Commonwealth Cup. I also quite like Art Power. Like I said, there's not as much pace in this race as there often is engaged. He might get a bit of a solo, and he was third in this. This is Real Antiques Roadshow form back in 2021, but he's dangerous if let loose on the lead.
Maddy?
Yeah, I don't think this race is as strong as is sometimes the case, Graham. There's not much between many of them. On top, I've got number 6, Mitbahi, for the reasons explained earlier. I want to give a quick mention to the 8, Shartash. He's second in for me. Archie Watson says this horse has been transformed by the gelding operation. Won his last 2, could be a bit of a springer there, followed by 5, Millstream and 11.
We know 2 things about the good British sprinters. If a decent Aussie comes, we're in trouble, and the rest of the Brits and Irish just beat each other. So I'm looking for a horse with a slightly different angle, different profile. Step forward, number 8, Shartash. He's won 2 minor races, but he's won them in really good style. And for the new yard, he is on the up. Washington Heights we haven't mentioned, but he's fast and aggressive, and he'll hang on to that lead for quite a long time here. 12, Believing, turns out quickly. No reason why she won't run again. And 6, Mitbahi. This is a fierce betting contest. Any number of possibilities. Good luck, however you play the big Saturday Group 1. Race 4, Day 5, Royal Ascot 2024, is the Jersey Stakes. It's a straight 1,400 metres. It's 3-year-olds. It has Group 3 status. It's a massive field with various intriguing runners. Number 1, Hartem, is a rugged racehorse. He does have a penalty here, but his form is high class. Boiling Point is pretty smart. Various intriguing horses in the second half of the field here. 11, Native American. Richard Farr, he's got a good record in this race. Back to form at Epsom. Never So Brave, Sir Michael Starr, if you go way back, he has run some cracking horses in this and won it. Never So Brave bolted up in a handicap at Chester. Night Raider pulled way too hard in the 2,000 guineas. River Tiber is a strong, strong contender, only just behind Hartem at the Curragh. Number 17, Task Force, was very good last year. I thought he was a bit flat first time in the 2,000 guineas. The obvious starting point is Royal Ascot 12 months ago, John Blance. Coventry Stakes, couple of key players. River Tiber was the best horse in the field this day. Hartem wasn't quite at his peak at that stage.
No, he wasn't, but he came on, of course, win the Richmond Stakes later on at Glorious Goodwood. River Tiber was on his game straight away as a 2-year-old, carried on that for most of the back end of last season as well. Third in the Pre-Morney, third in the Middle Park too, and has made a very good reappearance in the Irish 2000 Guineas, Maddy.
River Tiber or Hartem, they are pretty closely matched on their Irish Guineas form. Hartem was ahead of River Tiber that day, but River Tiber is £3 better off.
He is, but I fancy Hartem to confirm the form in that race. We've seen what he can do this season. He was a wide margin winner of the Craven Stakes, then of course finished runner-up in the 2000 Guineas. Another excellent effort behind Rosalie and his stablemate last time. That form obviously was boosted on Tuesday in a magnificent St James's Palace Stakes. Hartem, he's so genuine. I think he's going to love this straight track, 7 furlongs. Can't wait to see him, Graham.
Go way back. Expert eye for Sir Michael Stout. The mighty Zilzal, Jeremy. Sir Michael Stout used to have a really fine touch with this. Never So Brave could have run in one of the big handicaps here this week. Maddy, it's intriguing that Sir Michael and the team are happy to roll the big dice in the pattern race instead.
Yes, he was on my radar for some of the handicaps. So as you say, Graham, the fact that he turns up here is notable. The success at Chester last time earned him praise not only from Sir Michael Stout, but from his rider Ryan Moore as well. I expect he'll be up to this level at some point. Not sure whether it'll be today, though.
It was Ryan Moore who rode Never So Brave at Chester. Fascinating and really good, I think, that Safi Osborne has been given the chance to shine again on that horse. What are the others we should be keen on here, John?
Well, I quite like Pearls and Rubies at a huge price to run well. Of course, she was a winner or second in the Chesham here last year, and then she ran well in the Cheveley Park. A reproduction of that would give her a good chance. She's far too big a price at the books at the moment. Mountain Bear as well has got some good form and wasn't suited by the way the Irish 1,000 Guineas was run earlier on in the season. So I think she can go quite well too. But 7 out of the last 10 winners of this, Graham, have had a rating of 110 or higher. There's only a few horses in this field that come into that category, and Hartem is clearly on top of those.
So your numbers, John.
He's going to go on top for me. So that's horse number 1, Hartem, is going to be my selection. Then 14 in for second, River Tiber. And they're going to go with Mountain Bear and Pearls and Rubies for third and fourth.
Juddmonte have had some good winners of this race. They're going to have a few that are going to run well here, but I don't think they're going to be able to topple Hartem number 1. Then I've got in 17 Task Force. I think he can bounce back from his run in the 2000 Guineas at Newmarket. 14 River Tiber and 8 Kikuli.
I don't think this is that complicated. I think the best horses will come to the fore. I'm keen on number 14, River Tiber. The Irish Guineas was his first run of the season. He has a £3 pull with his old rival, Hartem. Number 12, Never So Brave, has it to find on the ratings, but he is improving fast. 11, Native American, Richard Farr. He knows what's needed here. That horse can well. Number 1, Hartem, has the £3 penalty, which just puts me off him for the win, but he should run well again. 14, 12, 11, and 1 in the Jersey Stakes. Well, if you like your fiercely competitive sprint handicaps, we have just the race for you. Race 5, Day 5, Royal Ascot. It is the Wokingham Stakes. Historic handicap, massive field, 2 groups, maybe 3, maybe there's a draw bias. There'll definitely be a wide open market and plenty to choose from. From the top, number 6, Rumstar, has very good Ascot form. We'll look at him in a moment. We'll also look at number 7, St. Lawrence, who led the parade in this race last year. From the likes of Apollo 1, who's super consistent. Dark Trooper has very good Ascot form also. Juan Lepan ran very well in this race last year. Orazio did, but he needs easier ground, I think. Keep an eye on number 16, Mercurial, but potentially well handicapped. Al Bashir. Desert Cup has won a big race this year. Ferris has won a couple. Lethal Levi blossomed in blinkers at Newbury. Strike Red is quirky but very capable. And Glenfinnan is another who's run well at Ascot this year. Let's take you back, way back to last year's Wokingham handicap. Pick up the video of this. It was a fantastic week for trader Archie Watson. He had 3 winners, including St. Lawrence. And on this day, St. Lawrence storms home. Apollo 1 runs well. Juan Lepan runs well. Orazio is in 6th. Al Bashir was in the dark side at this point. He comes charging late after running very waywardly. If you had the pick of this little bunch, John, 12 months on, which would it be?
Well, it's interesting. Mum's Tipple's much better in with the rest of, or those that finished ahead of him in this race last year. So he's definitely one to consider, especially after a couple of efforts where he's been behind in races with having gone particularly strong over slightly further as well. A strong run 6 furlongs will suit Mum's Tipple. I think he's a well-handicapped horse. St. Lawrence is always difficult to catch right, as he was last year. Apollo 1, will not win, and he's got gate 2, which is not ideal, but I think he'll run a decent race as well.
God, you've turned away from Apollo 1. You've tipped him about 10 times.
He's still in, don't worry, but he's not on the top line.
Maddy, any one of those, or are you looking for other clues?
I'm looking for fresh faces, Graham. On top for me, I really quite like Rumstar, number 6 in this. He's a classy horse. He won the Cornwallis over 5 furlongs as a juvenile and then ran some really bold races last season, including at this track over this course and distance in the Group 1 Commonwealth Cup when he finished 5th at a huge price. We can see him finishing behind Little Big Bear, Shaquille and Co, etc. They're really good horses. Much better effort last time when second. I think this handicap's going to be ideal for him. He's been on my radar for one of these for a long time. His trainer Jonathan Portman's also having an excellent season.
Dark Trooper is another Wathnan Racing purchase. I think they paid 500,000 guineas or thereabouts for him. They moved him from England to France, but when he was trained in England, he was a very effective hold-up sprinter with a turn of foot. Let's pick him up, winning handsomely in the Shergar Cup, Maddy. He came back to Ascot a few weeks later, won again, and he bounced right back to form, winning in France last time.
Yeah, he was a relentless improver last season, Graham. Dark Trooper. Just a really nice horse for one of these handicaps. As you say, he's got the perfect style for it. He can sit and then sprint in the closing stages. He's in my numbers. I don't think you can discount him at all off the perfect prep.
You're my draw professor, John. Where would you prefer to be drawn in a race like this weekend?
High, definitely. But I mean, low-drawn horses have run okay in it, but generally it's been dominated by high-drawn horses. There's no collusion in these tips whatsoever. We don't sort of burn the midnight oil together. Myself and Maddy have come up with exactly the same selection on top here, Rumstar, for all the reasons that Maddy gave. Gate 25 as well.
Give me your numbers then.
Yeah, so it's number 6, Rumstar on top. Dark Trooper, obviously, on a really good upward curve at the moment. 26 Mums, Tipple in there for 3rd. And you guessed it, Graham, Apollo 1 in for 4th.
Yeah, I stole John's thunder a little bit with 6 Rumstar, but I think he's going to run a big race at a big price. I mentioned for number 9, Unequal Love, a filly. She could have gone elsewhere. Interesting Connections have opted to run her here. She's pattern class. She could surprise a few people, followed by 10 Dark Trooper and 5 Harry 3, the Mount of Ryan Moore. Watch out for him.
I hope John Blance is right about this draw thing, because my main players are all drawn pretty much close to the fence, the near side fence. 16 Al-Bashir, I need to expand on him. He was a suitable case for treatment this time last year. He was very wayward, but Archie Watson's found the key to him now. Soft ground, no good last time. Have a look at his winter all-weather form. He's very well handicapped on that hold-up horse with a turn of foot, and he's drawn 31. He'll be buried away and come home strongly. 16, Al-Bashir on top from 10, Dark Trooper, another hold-up sprinter with a turn of foot. 24, Strike Red, is quirky but very capable. Only been to Ascot once, and he ran really well. And number 6, Rumstar, for the reasons the guys have outlined. This is one of the toughest puzzles, never mind of the week, of the entire year. The very best of luck to all of you in the Wokingham. Race 6, day 5 at Royal Ascot is the Golden Gates Handicap. 2,000 metres on the round course. All sorts of progressive 3-year-olds on view. Cambridge for Aidan O'Brien. Treasure in the Royal colours. Primo Lara is improving. Hand of God is a potential big improver over this trip for the first time. Palace Green comes a little down in distance. Approval, impressive from the front last time. Old Faithful, another for Aidan. And Portsmouth ran extremely well at Epsom. I like Hand of God, and I like Portsmouth, and I'm now relying on my partners in crime, John and Maddy, to tell me why I like them.
Well, Hand of God represents very good connections, of course, the King's Gambit connections from that London Gold Cup a few weeks ago. Hand of God is in that sort of level of ability. He's going to be tough to beat here. Gate 17 is not a huge problem, and he's already hit the speed figure, the past speed figure for this race twice, once last year and once this year. So I think he's got a very, very strong chance.
I'll add one more point. His mile form gives him a good chance. He's bred to be really well suited by the step up in distance. I like him. Now tell me why I like Portsmouth as well, Maddy.
Yeah, well, Royal Ascot seldom goes by without a Hayley Turner winner, so maybe this will be the one for her. Key piece of form, Graham, at Epsom last time, finished second to a horse called Persica. That was a really good effort. He was too keen that day, travelled very strongly, still managed to finish his race off well. The race wasn't shaped to suit him. This will be. It should be fast and furious. I think he's going to put in a career best effort.
I like him. Should we be slightly concerned that Oisin Murphy doesn't ride in this time? He looks like he's chosen to ride Palace Green for Richard Hughes, another horse I like. Either way, Portsmouth ran so well, despite being a little keener than ideal. The faster they go, the better he'll be. Let's wrap this Golden Gates race up. John, it's a tough one. but I know you like Hand of God.
Yeah, I do. Horse number 8 on top. Cambridge is a class dropper. He was 4th in the Craven, 4th in the Dante as well, down at the handicap company here. Portsmouth number 16 for the reasons given. Bit of pace engaged here will suit Primo Lara, the 7 as well.
Yeah, 16 Portsmouth on top for me, Graham, followed by the 12 Miletus. He beat 2 subsequent winners at Windsor last time. That form could be boosted very soon indeed. The 11 Dambuster, worth a mention, back to form last time, very lightly raced, followed by 13 Old Faithful.
One for the Maradona fans here, late great Diego. Hand of God looks a potential strong improver over this trip. 8, he's on top from 16 Portsmouth, still progressive, 10 Approval, and 9 Palace Green. All the best in the Golden Gates Handicap. Welcome back for the final race on day 5 of Royal Ascot 2024. First thing to say, thanks so much to John and Maddy and Simon Mapletoft for all their hard work this week. It's been great fun. It is the Queen Alexandra Stakes. It's just about summer solstice, longest day of the year here in Britain. Fittingly, we have the longest race of the week, longest race of the year, I think, in Britain. Queen Alexandra Stakes, a Class 2 historic ancient conditions race. It's pretty much 2 miles, 6 furlongs. I have no idea what that is in meters, but I do know that it takes about 5 minutes to win it. Have a look at the runners and riders. Some very familiar faces. 2 Dawn Rising won this race for Ryan Moore last year. William Buick in the irons this time. Fassol, good form on the level in France. Now a jumper with Paul Nicholls. Postileo, he's got high-quality form at about 2 miles. This trip, I'm not sure. Run for Oscar ran very well for 3rd 12 months ago. Tashkan, will he run? Fast ground has often been considered to be against him. Keep an eye on number 8, Uxmal, for Joseph O'Brien, stablemate of last year's winner. Drawn to Dream, ran pretty well here in a good handicap earlier in the week. And Queenstown represents Aidan O'Brien and has been doing the donkey work for the mighty Kyprios. Let's have a look back at last year's race. Yes, it was 2 miles 6, John, but they pootled around quite gently for at least a mile and 3/4. Then they dashed up the straight, and Dawn Rising and Ryan Moore were in the perfect position to strike.
They were, and it's a great verb to pootle as well, but I don't think they're going to do that this time round because there's quite a few pace angles in this race. Dawn Rising obviously won this, and this is a race which has had quite a few multiple winners in the past. He will be sitting off the pace here. He was behind a very, very tepid speed against Kyprios last time out, which is not a sensible place to be. So I think there's every chance of Dawn Rising will go well again. I've got him on top, but I think he's not necessarily a certain winner, but he'll be there or thereabouts.
Maddy, he's been quite gently handled, shall we say, recently, perhaps with this race in mind.
Absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth, Graham. I think he's been prepared perfectly for this by Joseph O'Brien, who knows exactly what to do when it comes to target training. This is a horse who finished 3rd in the Irish St Ledger last year. That's Group 1 form. I think he's going to be very tough to beat once again.
Queenstown is a 4-year-old, only had 6 runs. He looked a bit awkward last year, but he's come on quite nicely, making the running for Kyprios in a couple of pretty useful races in Ireland, John.
Yeah, and races where they went a bit of a dawdle. I think there's, as I say, going to be more pace here, but Queenstown is definitely on that upward curve from a form perspective. Rated 107. Historic renewals of this race reckon it's going to be sort of 105 or above you've got to be at, so he's in that particular category. And yeah, provided there's not too much pace, I think he'll be all right, and he's in the numbers as well.
What else do you fancy?
Tashkan, I think. He's run a good race in the Gold Cup a couple of years ago behind Kyprios, and he loves Ascot as well. Like you said, the ground may be a slight issue for him, but if he runs, I think he's capable of a huge race. He's a strong stayer. And I also want to give a positive mention for Postileo, who on his Hamilton form when with Roger Varian would be very interesting if seeing out this trip.
Talk to me about Postileo when he ran pretty well here over a mile and a half last autumn. He was beaten by Al Karim, and the horse in blue who finished second, Isra, bolted up here earlier in the week. So Postileo, if he stays the trip, might be a live one.
Definitely, Graham.
So let's try and wrap this up, John. Give me your numbers. I think you've both missed the winner. I'll come to him in a moment. Give me your numbers, please.
Well, I'm going to go Dawn Rising on top, horse number 2, 13 Queenstown there in for second, and then Tashkan and Run for Oscar in down below.
So nearly the exact same. 2 Dawn Rising for me, followed by 13 Queenstown, 7 Tashkan, and 5 Postileo.
Can't believe you haven't mentioned this horse I like. My summary of this Queen Alexandra is Galileo, Galileo, Galileo. Uxmal is by Galileo. He's got good form. He's on the upgrade for Joseph O'Brien. 2 starts back, he ran a belter in France, and he bolted up in Ireland last time on softer ground. He is a danger to all. 8 Uxmal. Dawn Rising won the race last year, bound to run well again. Queenstown looks like he will stay longer than John Blance at a free bar.
Yeah.
And 14, another strong stayer, Grand Providence. Thanks for everyone, all the production team, for all your help this week. It's been a joy to be part of the Whirlpool Royal Ascot 2024. Thank you.